Okay. A few weeks ago, a recycler filed an appeal in Superior Court, and I obtained a copy of the appeal. The recycler was USA Recycling in Susanville, California, up near the Reno border. One of the issues within the appeal, as I read through it, was applying the statute of limitations. In essence, the state had waited too long before they were allowed to file an accusation. And it comes under an issue called knew or should have known. According to the testimony and in the appeal, we see that in January of 2010, the CHP notified CalRecycle that they had arrested a man, and he had false ID, he had stolen license plates, and he was transporting containers. So this is the marker. This is when they should have known. Now, a few months later, they did their own research and they analyzed two main highways coming in from Reno, and they documented hundreds of loads of material coming into recyclers. And they already knew that the material was coming in. So, statute of limitations starts in January of 2010. In March, April, May, they do surveillance, produce a report in June of 2010, go in and visit the recycler in April of 2011, and start enforcement action. And then while they were doing enforcement action, they put them on prepayment controls, so they watched everything that they did. They looked at all their paperwork, watched all their shipments go into Sacramento, watched them for years. And they withheld payments, many times arbitrarily, and many times without authority. Now in April of 2013, the department filed an accusation. It was around 2015, I think it got into Office of Administrative Hearings. And the judge, in her opinion, wrote that the state's witnesses, the staff of CalRecycle, lacked credibility. That's government speak for her. She thinks they lie. And one of the things was their selective memory. Most of the people involved in this accusation had been on that surveillance team, and they couldn't remember things about that, and the state didn't want to produce that report, but was finally forced to by the judge. Well, she punished them. She punished the state. The state wanted almost $1 million. She offered $9,000 payable over 3 years, $300 a month. That's a tap on the wrist. She also said that they could stay in business, another condition that CalRecycle wanted to eliminate. They wanted them out of business. So the director now has an ability in California's system, this is something that needs to be corrected, to just reject the judge's decision. And as I see it, he does so without any standards being imposed on him. Did he read the transcripts? Did he read her decision? Or did she leave it to the attorneys within the department? Did he see where in testimony we could see that his witnesses were not being honest? These are things that need to be addressed in the future if California is to have a better regulatory environment. If we're going to have this system where a director can just get rid of a judge's decision, then we need to know that there's standards on him. Now, all this comes to me, and I'm saying 2010, the CHP gave them notice. Well, I was involved in another case. Two recyclers, one Paper Rush out of San Francisco, owned and run by a woman, a Vietnamese immigrant, and Paper Rush, he was immigrant from South America, El Salvador, Guatemala, something like that. And so both immigrants, one Latino. And they had a case against them. In fact, It was run by the supervisor of special investigations, the one who set up this surveillance team. And in that case, which came before this case, he identified people, specifically a man by the name of Solis, who had previous history with CalRecycle in the South, as being in Reno. So the department's claim that the statute of limitations shouldn't start until they decide to walk in there holds no water, because CalRecycle and probably the Department of Conservation, even before that, knew that all this was going on for some time. Now, statute in the 14571 sections says that CalRecycle is to assist recyclers. And one of the things that it could do is when it follows these loads, these hundreds of loads, and they go into California recyclers, and in their report they show California residence, California vehicle, California ID, everything is California. There's clearly an intent to defraud the program by defrauding first the recycler. CalRecycle has never assisted, has never told anybody about this. I believe that if CalRecycle had done this, and those people would have forfeited the value of those loads that they paid for over in Nevada, that they wouldn't have repeated this action. It would have been too costly for them. And they would have educated the recyclers in the process. But they didn't do that. Instead, they chose to deliberately go after recyclers. I wrote a piece to my clients this last week called Bias, and I'll expand on that in the future. But the department has clearly had a bias that they can just go after recyclers when they know it's out of state, but the recyclers don't. Recyclers are following the law. They must pay if it's labeled. The department knows that. They choose to ignore it. They think that the recycler should be in a position where they must obey the law and buy it, versus we're going to impose a standard of suspicion on the recycler, and we're not going to pay him if we don't like the looks of the paperwork afterwards. That's underground regulation. These recyclers need to be protected. And we can see now, statute of limitations started way before this. It won't be in this appeal, but it will be in YouTube, and I thank you.